His blind date canceled last minute until he saw her crying in the parking lot with her kids. The screaming didn't make sense at first, not until he stepped outside. Just a few minutes earlier, Noah Brooks sat alone at a small Italian restaurant, staring at the empty chair across from him. He had shaved. He had ironed his shirt twice. He even rehearsed what he'd say if the date went well. But then his phone buzzed. "I'm sorry, I can't make it." No explanation, no call, no second message, just silence. Noah wasn't angry, just tired. He had tried so hard these past few months to start living again, after losing both parents and spending most days in quiet apartments and lonely grocery aisles. This blind date had been a tiny flicker of hope. Now it was gone. He paid for the glass of water he barely touched, nodded politely to the hostess, and walked outside. That's when he heard it. A muffled cry, then another, then a child's voice saying, "Mommy, please don't cry, please." Noah stopped. At the far end of the parking lot, under a flickering streetlight, sat a woman on the ground, leaning against a faded gray minivan. Her shoulders were shaking. Two children, a small boy and a little girl, sat beside her. The girl held a stuffed bunny. The boy held his sister's hand like he was the parent. Noah felt something inside him twist. "Don't stare," he told himself. But then the woman lifted her head for just a second, and he recognized her face. She was the woman from the profile photo, his canceled blind date. She had canceled and then come here anyway. Noah walked forward slowly, careful not to scare the kids. "Are you okay?" The woman looked up, startled. Tears streaked her face. Mascara smudged, eyes red. She looked nothing like the profile picture. She looked real, hurting, human. "I'm sorry," she whispered instantly, wiping her face. "You weren't supposed to see me like this." Noah shook his head. "You don't have to apologize." The little boy, maybe 5, looked up at Noah with wide eyes. "Mommy said she ruined everything," he said quietly. The woman closed her eyes in embarrassment. Noah sat on the pavement beside them, not too close, but close enough to show he wasn't leaving. "What happened?" She swallowed hard. "My babysitter canceled. I brought them with me thinking maybe we could sit somewhere nearby while I met you. But then I felt stupid." She laughed once, but it broke halfway. "I haven't been on a date in 4 years. I don't even know how to be a person anymore. Just a mom." Noah looked at her gently. "What's your name?" "Madison." "And these two?" The boy lifted his chin proudly. "I'm Aiden. I'm 5.5." The little girl held up 3 fingers, but her face said 4. Noah smiled softly. "Well, I'm Noah. I like pancakes and superheroes, and I don't mind kids." The little girl sniffed. "Do you like ice cream?" she asked. "Only every single day," he said. For the first time, Madison's laugh sounded real, but then her face fell again. "I shouldn't be here. I can't afford a babysitter, and my ex hasn't sent money in 8 months. I thought I could just pretend tonight. Just one night where I wasn't failing." Her voice cracked. "And then the kids asked what we're celebrating, and I didn't know what to tell them." Noah's chest tightened. "You're not failing," he said quietly. "You showed up. That's more than most people ever do." Aiden crawled into Madison's lap, trying to shield her like a tiny guard dog. Madison whispered, "I shouldn't have cried in front of them." Noah shook his head slowly. "No. They needed to see that even strong people get tired, and you are one of the strongest." For a long moment, they sat under the flickering streetlight, just breathing in the quiet. Then Noah spoke again. "Come on. There's a diner across the street. Booths, fries, free crayons, no judgment." Madison hesitated. "I don't have money for that." He stood and offered his hand, not forcing, just waiting. "Then tonight is my treat, and not a date, just food with good company." The kids stood up first. "We want fries," Aiden said bravely. Like it was a legal contract, Madison looked from her children to Noah, and something shifted in her eyes. Trust. He wasn't pitying her. He was meeting her exactly where she was. They walked together across the street, the girl holding one of Noah's fingers like it was the most natural thing in the world. Inside the diner, everything felt warmer. Aiden drew a superhero on a napkin. The little girl made a jelly packet tower. Madison watched Noah like she couldn't believe he was real. "Why are you being so kind?" she asked quietly. Noah didn't flinch. "Because someone should have been kind to me years ago when I needed it." Madison's eyes softened. Before she could speak, the waitress arrived with fries and chocolate milk. The kids gasped like it was Christmas morning, and for a moment, everything felt okay. They talked for 2 hours. Not about drama, not about perfect lives, about cartoons, burnt toast, stories of mistakes and survival. Madison confessed she sometimes cried folding laundry. Noah said he sometimes talked to his dog even though he didn't own one. They laughed until it felt safe. But when they walked back to the parking lot, holding leftovers and crayon drawings, Madison froze. Her smile disappeared. Standing beside her van was a man, tall, dark jacket, arms crossed, eyes burning. The little girl hid behind Noah instantly, Aiden whispered. "That's him." Madison went pale. Noah's voice dropped. "Who is that?" She swallowed. "My ex." The man took one step forward and with a low voice full of poison, he said, "So this is why you didn't answer my calls tonight." Noah stepped in front of the children. The man reached into his pocket, and Aiden screamed. For one terrifying second, nobody moved. The streetlight buzzed and flickered overhead. Madison stood frozen, gripping the diner leftovers so tightly the paper bag began to tear. Aiden pressed himself against her leg, trembling. The little girl hid behind Noah's coat. Noah didn't move, not even a step back. He simply stood between the children and the man, calm, solid, unshaking. "Put your hand where I can see it," Noah said quietly. The man smirked. "So you're the hero tonight, huh?" His voice had the casual arrogance of someone who had frightened people for years. Madison's voice cracked. "Ethan, please don't do this. Not in front of the kids." Ethan stepped forward. "You ignored my calls. I had the right to come see my children." "You haven't seen them in 8 months," Madison whispered, "and they seem happier for it." Ethan's jaw twitched. He jerked his hand out of his pocket. Aiden screamed. But it wasn't a weapon. It was a folded envelope. He threw it at Madison's feet. "Court papers," he spat. "I'm filing for custody." Madison's knees almost buckled. "No," she whispered. "You don't want them. You never did. You just want to win." Ethan shrugged. "Doesn't matter what I want. What matters is what you can't afford. Lawyers, hearing stability." He leaned close enough that Noah could smell the cheap whiskey on his breath. "You think she's the helpless one here, hero? She's the reason everything fell apart." Noah didn't blink. "Walk away." Ethan laughed. "You don't scare me." Noah didn't raise his voice. He didn't move. He just placed his hand gently, firmly on Aiden's shoulder, and his voice changed. Lower, steadier. "You've already done enough damage tonight. Leave, or I call the police and report a drunk man threatening a mother and 2 minors." Ethan's smirk twitched. "You don't know who I am." "No," Noah said calmly. "But I know who they are. That's enough." For 2 tense seconds, nobody breathed. Then headlights appeared down the street, a passing patrol car. Ethan cursed under his breath. He backed away slowly, eyes still locked on Madison. "This isn't over," he pointed at her children. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." Then he got in his cheap black car, slammed the door, and tore out of the lot. The moment he was gone, Madison collapsed into a crouch, not crying, just shaking. Aiden fell against her. The little girl wrapped her arms around her waist. "I'm sorry," Madison whispered to them, voice breaking. "I'm so sorry." Noah knelt beside her, not touching, just close enough to be present. "You don't apologize for being threatened," he said softly. "Ever." Madison wiped her eyes. "I thought we were okay. I was starting to think maybe life could be good again." "It still can be," Noah said. Madison looked up at him. "Why are you still here?" He smiled, tired but sincere. "Because you were brave enough to show up tonight, and that means you're worth staying for." She stared at him like she was seeing kindness for the first time in years. Aiden tugged Noah's sleeve. "Are you going to marry my mom?" Noah choked on laughter. Madison nearly fell over. "Buddy," Noah said, "we just met tonight." Aiden crossed his arms. Well, I like you. The little girl nodded fiercely. You bought fries. Noah grinned. Guess that makes me family now. They laughed, but there was a fragile edge to it. Madison stood slowly. I can't do this alone, she whispered. Not the custody papers. Not any of it. You won't, Noah said instantly. She blinked. What? I know a family lawyer. My mom used to do volunteer work for single parents before she passed. That lawyer owed her a favor. Madison's lip trembled. That's too much. It's not, Noah said gently. Everyone deserves one moment in life where someone shows up for them. Madison stared at him for a long moment. Then in a small, shaking voice, Thank you. Noah stood. Let me drive behind you, just to make sure you get home safe. She nodded. The kids climbed into the van. Madison buckled them in. Then she sat behind the wheel and hesitated. Noah? Yeah? You were supposed to be my blind date tonight. He smirked. Still am, just with extra fries and an angry ex-husband. She laughed. It sounded real this time. They drove in quiet convoy until Madison turned into a small apartment lot. Noah parked behind her, but didn't get out. He just watched to make sure Ethan didn't appear again. Madison stepped out of the van. She walked to Noah's car window. He rolled it down. I saw something tonight, she said quietly. What? You weren't afraid of him. He shook his head. Oh, I was. I just didn't move. She smiled faintly. That's what bravery is, being scared and doing it anyway. They looked at each other. Two people who were never supposed to meet. Two people whose lives changed in a parking lot. Madison whispered, Can I see you again, even if it's not a date yet? Noah's smile was warm. I'll be exactly where you need me, Madison, for as long as you want. She nodded, stepped back, and then, before she could stop herself, she leaned in and pressed a soft, grateful kiss to his cheek. Good night, Noah. Good night. She walked away, not broken, not defeated, just a woman holding her children's hands. And hope. Noah watched them go. Something inside him felt alive again, not because he saved her, but because kindness finally meant something. Not just words, but action. Sometimes the most powerful act of kindness isn't a grand gesture. It's showing up when someone is falling apart quietly. It's saying, yeah, you don't have to do this alone. You may never know whose life you changed, but they will remember you forever.